Restaurant Operator Podcast. I'm Mandy Detwiler, editor of Pizza Marketplace and QSRweb, and I'm here today with Blas Escarcega, Vice President of Franchise Development for chicken company Pollo Campero. Blas, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Mandy. It's great to be here.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about the brand itself and how you got started with the brand?
The brand itself started in 1971 in Guatemala. It's been a brand that's been around for over 50 years, so it was mostly in Central America. It came to the U.S. in 2002 in Los Angeles, and actually that restaurant that we opened, one of our franchise units opened in 2002, is still operating as of today. So it has a historic following, not only in Guatemala, but now it's starting to resonate here in the U.S. My relationship with Pollo Campero started in 2007. Actually, next week will be my 18th anniversary with the organization.
Wow.
So I was one of the first employees they hired in the U.S. to operate the brand here and expand it. So when you look back at 2007, when we opened the office here in the U.S., even though we had a franchise unit in 2002, that was supported out of Guatemala, we really planted our roots here in the U.S. for accelerated growth. So I was the director of finance here with the organization. And I did that for the first 14 and a half years. And then the last three and a half years, I've been the vice president of franchise development. So that's been my role. So I've kind of worn many hats throughout the whole 18 years that I've been here, but I've been blessed to be with a brand that has a nostalgic following, a loyal following out of Central America. It's a brand that, has been very successful when we've opened here in the U.S. in areas, and we can go over some of the cities, but mostly in Los Angeles, Houston, Dallas, Florida, New York, Chicago, and the Northeast, rest of the Northeast, D.C. So it's a brand that has a nostalgic following. It's a brand that is the pride of Central America, and it's a brand that we're bringing here to the U.S. to share with the American consumer. And that's really our goal, is to bring the flavors of the world, and especially of our brand, Pollo Campero, to the rest of the U.S.
Well, you're part of the chicken wars, and they're pretty fierce right now. I mean, they have been for several years. What specific strategies has Pollo Campero used to differentiate itself and stand out from the established giants and other emerging chicken brands?
One of the things that we've always maintained is authenticity. We never forget our roots of, the recipes that we've had as far as the seasoning, the way we prepare the food. It's been prepared through, a certain way over the years, through pressure fryers where the chicken comes out tender, crunchy, and juicy with the seasoning. We've also made sure that we maintain the customer experience consistency throughout the brand, whether it's in Central America and the U.S. So we differentiate ourselves by making sure we're true to our roots and making sure that we maintain the recipes that we've carried over several generations, and also that the experience is consistent throughout the world. We're trying to maintain that global brand essence throughout the world. And we also feel that, the chicken category, you mentioned it's competitive. It's also one of the fastest growing. Over the last 7-8 years, it's one of the fastest growing categories. And people are consuming more chicken than ever before. It's something that is consumed more in the world. It's a protein that's number one in the world. And we know that. We've been there for over 50 years. When you think of the brand being in that space for over 50 years, I think we bring something that is very, very compelling for a consumer to want to come and try our chicken. So it's really the authenticity, the recipes, the preparation, the fact that we've been serving customers for over 50 years. And also we have beautiful buildings. We have great decor. The ambiance in the restaurant is really, if you haven't been to Pollo Campero, I welcome anyone to come and visit us, because we do have a great prototype and a great build out. So those are the things that we believe keep us relevant in this competitive chicken environment. And we know that it's going to continue, forever, pretty much, that you're going to have to be able to compete and be relevant. So we try to be at the top of mind when it comes to being a chicken restaurant chain here in the U.S.
Your restaurants are really pretty. They look
Yeah.
very nice. So, beyond chicken, what other aspects of the Pollo Campero experience are crucial for attracting and retaining customers in a competitive landscape?
We've spent a lot of time, maintaining, as I mentioned, our brand essence or authenticity. But also, we realize that the consumers are changing. Digital has become a bigger part of our build out now that we have come out of the pandemic. We kind of had to pivot and shift from, more of a dining experience to more of a takeout, drive through experience. We also realized that employees need to be part of the solution when it comes to customer experience. So when the brand experience is really the customer experience plus the employee experience needs to be the brand experience, and that's kind of where we focused a lot, especially during the pandemic and after. We've spent a lot of time making sure our employees are trained, that they fill the needs of the customer, but also that they're satisfied and they want to come to work. They come in very happy and they leave happier at the end of the day, because that's what we want people. Because at the end of the day, even though we're in the chicken restaurant, we're really in the people business selling chicken. So we also want to make sure that people understand that we're also part of being in the relationship with our consumers, and it's not just selling chicken. So we've tried to remain relevant in all those aspects of technology. Menu innovation is a big thing that we look at to ensure that we're coming up with products and flavors that people want to try and enjoy. And now that social media is a big part of what a lot of brands are going through, the world is becoming smaller in the sense that you're being exposed to a lot of what world flavors have and what, palates. And that's kind of where we fit in as a brand, is we can bring those flavors that maybe, 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't be exposed to, that we can bring it to you here in the U.S. So those are the kind of things that we've done.
How many units do you guys have now?
We have here in the U.S. 122 units. This week, Mandy, we will be opening up on this Thursday in Penn Station. So that will be a flagship location for us. So we'll be at 123 at the end of this week. Worldwide, we're approximately 400. So the difference between what we have here in the U.S., 123, and the 400 is in Central America mostly. We do have some units sprinkled in Spain and some in South America. But for the most part, it's Central America and the U.S. where we have the majority of our 400 units.
Now, you're aiming to reach 250 by 2026. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What's the key to
Actually,
achieving?
it's 2030. And let me just correct you there, Mandy.
Okay. So 250 by 2030.
Yes.
So what's the key to achieving such rapid expansion while maintaining brand consistency and quality?
We've taken a long look at this because we've been here in the U.S. since 2002, and there were some learnings that we had initially. One of the learnings we had was it's a different service model here in the U.S., so we recognize that. The other thing that maybe site selection was going to be more of a challenge here in the U.S., and looking at sites where we can develop our brand was going to be more of a challenge. So what we did was we looked at our capabilities internally, and then we assessed our capabilities, whether it's development, whether it's marketing, whether it's QA, whether it's franchising, etc. We wanted to see where did we have gaps that we need to fill, and we filled those gaps with expertise in the industry and individuals that could bring headcount. Honestly, when you're growing and accelerating at such an aggressive pace, you need to make sure you have the headcount, the capability, and also the tools to ensure that you're going to be able to deliver 250 units in the next 5 years. So we made a conscious effort to define our strategy and fill those gaps and create, the capabilities that we were missing, build a foundation, put together the processes and procedures. To your point, you want brand consistency. So we made sure that we put all the processes and procedures in place before we decided to really accelerate our growth. So by the time we started, actually last year, since last year we opened 29 units, and this year we're expecting about another 29, 30 units, we were ready and we were prepared. And the other thing is you have to pivot along the way, depending on the markets that you're operating in, because not every city is going to, approve permits. Not everyone is going to, not every landlord's the same and those kind of things. So there have been challenges along the way, but we have the expertise now to deal with those and to be able to pivot, because it's very important in this restaurant industry to pivot as fast as possible. And I think the pandemic showed that those who were able to pivot quickly were the ones who came out of it stronger. And we came out a lot stronger after that.
What are you looking for in a perfect location in the U.S.?
We're looking for visibility. We want to be in a position where we're not out positioned in that market or trade area that we're going to open a restaurant. What does that mean? If we're going into a trade area to put up Pollo Campero, we want to make sure that we have great visibility, egress, ingress. We want to make sure there's traffic counts that will support that. We want to make sure that the competitors around us complement us, whether it's a hamburger chain or a pizza chain. How about a chicken chain that's there that will complement kind of the consumer in that area? And then the other thing is we rely a lot on working with our brokers and our real estate team to really identify sites along with our site analytics software. We use site analytics software that allows us to have inputs in there that are specific to our brand, that will generate reports that say, here's where we would recommend you build Pollo Campero. Here's where we believe the success of the brand will be here, taking into account traffic counts, household incomes, competitors, future trends as far as growth, etc. So that's how we're able to find what we believe are the most successful for the brand. And of course, you got to be involved with visiting these sites and really get ingrained in the local community to understand, is this an opportunity for us? And then we also have the legacy brand, the legacy consumer brand, part who also live in different markets that we operate. So we want to make sure that, is there an opportunity to bring not only the brand to the American consumer mainstream, but also ensure that our nostalgic fans are going to be close by where they can come visit us also. So it's a win-win for everybody.
So in today's environment, everything is, egg prices and chicken prices are up. How do you balance the need for affordability with the rising costs of ingredients and labor and other operational expenses?
One thing that we've really looked at, and we've done this very well here, is we assess all our contracts with suppliers. We negotiate as much as we can to ensure we get the best pricing. As we've grown, we also have benefited from purchasing power. So we have been able to benefit from those. But it's not so much negotiating, but it's more partnering up with our suppliers. What does that mean? That means, what do we expect in the next year to 2 years as far as sales volume that we can negotiate? How much chicken are we going to need? How much beverage are we going to need? How many fries? So that we can negotiate that as part of our contract pricing. We also realize that on the flip side, the consumer has to feel that there's value in what they're buying. So we make sure that the pricing that is very competitive in the market, while maintaining the margins, but also we use technology. Technology means that we have studied, our prototype. How many steps does it take an employee to make the product? How many steps does it take for them to go to the drive-through window? How many steps does it take for them to go outside and deliver food if it's curbside? So we've actually looked at how do we eliminate steps and reduce our labor costs without impacting the throughput of our product, without impacting the customer experience. So we've spent a lot of time and effort on that. And also the technologies are also the menu boards. We have digital menu boards. We have pre-menu boards. We're looking at, license plate readers that will allow us to kind of see who's come here in the past, and maybe there's option for us to remind them that this is what they ordered, or they're going to order the same thing they did last time. So we're testing a lot of that. There's also, back of the house, there's fryers that we're testing that are more efficient, that can produce the product a little bit faster. We also realize that the drive-through is very important, and takeout is very important. So part of our prototype is how do we align those needs with the layout of the restaurant. So we have spent a lot of time, and Mandy, to be honest, it's always changing. So you got to be on top of that. So it's not like something that you built 4 or 5 years ago or 1 year is going to carry you to the future. So we've studied those trends. We spent a lot of time and effort, and I think we have been very successful in maintaining our value proposition while still maintaining restaurant margins, while still maintaining excellent relationships with our suppliers.
Let's talk a little bit about consumer behavior in the fast food or the fast casual industry. It's changed in recent years, and there's less of a line division between fast food and fast casual. How is Pollo Campero adapting to these kinds of shifts?
We've always been consider ourselves a fast casual. What does that mean for Pollo Campero? We have plates, we have silverware, we have, we bring the food to you. You order it at the counter, and we do bring it to you. We pick up after you leave the restaurant, so it's more of a fast casual environment. So we've had to ensure that we maintain that customer experience, because value maintain. When someone eats on plates and silverware, they look at them and they say that's a nice experience. It's an elevated experience. So we want to make sure that people maintain that. We also look at, when you're competing with QSR, you have to be fast. You have to be accurate. So those are the things that we also look at when it comes to drive-through performance, to ensure that, there's customers who want to come in and dine, and they want to spend, an hour in the restaurant. And there's those that say, you know what, I'm here for 5 minutes and I'm out, but I want to eat your food. So we need to make sure that we balance that on both aspects. The consumer trends have, initially when COVID hit, a lot of people did not even come in the dining. It was really more, drive-through, third-party delivery, curbside, takeout. We've seen a shift kind of coming back to the dining experience, not as much as it was before pandemic, but our brand with our legacy customers, they enjoy coming into the restaurant and experiencing Pollo Campero, because it brings back nostalgic memories for them. When they were in Central America, they were celebrating birthdays, Mother's Days, graduations, and they still want to be part of the Pollo Campero experience here in the U.S. So we have that component that we need to protect and ensure that their needs are being met. But also we knew the American consumer who says, I'm in and out. I love your food. I don't have the time. Americans are very busy in their day. So it's a delicate balance, and we've tried to ensure that everyone is satisfied and the needs are there and are being met on a consistent basis.
I guess my last question is, what advice would you give to other emerging restaurant brands looking to carve out their own space in a competitive market like Pollo Campero?
I think one of the things that for emerging brand, you have to have the passion for the brand. And when I mean the passion is you've got to believe in the brand. When you go into new markets and you go into maybe a market that you're not as well known, brand awareness is not where some of the bigger players are, you have to work a little bit harder. Your local store marketing is going to be very important. Social media nowadays, you can reach a lot of people, influencers, etc. There's all sorts of different avenues that you can appeal. That kind of makes you you're up against the odds when you come against some of these bigger players. But we've been very successful in focusing on our brand, focusing on what we can do best, believe in your brand, have the passion for the brand, and also deliver the consistent, experience of your brand. Be true to your roots. A lot of times you're going to want to, people will say, let's do this, let's do that. But you got to be true to your roots and what got you there.
Right.
And that is the advice I give any emerging brand, whether you're competing with the big players, which we all know who they are, or the small players. you've got to be true to your roots. And once you stick to that, it's a secret recipe that gets you to success, and it builds over time. I think the other thing is you got to be very patient. You can't expect things to turn overnight, but you got to consistently build a momentum. And sometimes the momentum initially is very small, and you think you're not getting anywhere. But once you look back after 5, 6, 7 years, you start realizing, I remember when we were this small, now we're this big. People will know who our brand is, and they stop me now, whereas before you had to explain who we are. So constantly giving your brand a story to tell is going to be important with everyone you come across, whether it's a consumer, someone at the airport, or someone, taxi drivers to say who you with. Those are the stories that I like to share with people.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been excellent, a great representation of what it takes to stand out in the market.
Thank you, Mandy. I appreciate it.
That'll do it for this episode of the Restaurant Operator Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.